Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Peter. I will be running around here, so maybe just let me know when I'm disturbing you. Yeah, the history, we know each other since 8 years. When I was here attending a conference on Mediterranean writing systems, because I'm interested in writing systems since I'm a boy. And my interest in Maya hieroglyphic writing started when I was 10 years old, parallel to Egypt hieroglyphs, cuneiform, etc., and even and the Mediterranean writing system. So this is somehow my life here, posing it in here, and I'm very happy to present some basic principles of Maya writing. In Bonn, we are running a 15-year project on the documentation of Maya hieroglyphic texts digitally. And I'm here with Antje Grote, who's also working in the project. And we are also doing 3D scanning stuff within and so on. But this is another workshop. And but I will explain why 3D scanning is so important for our field. Today we have a basic introduction to Maya writing, basics, principles, conventions, signs in their context, and maybe for the really great stuff, what is written in the texts, comes next week. So, but in order to understand the content, you need to know the principles of the writing system, and I'm very happy to present you some new slides that I created for this introduction here. It's not a really typical workshop situation here, because otherwise I will talk about 10 minutes and give you some exercises, and then it would continue. Right now it's more explanations of principles and providing with the very basic principles, how Maya texts are written, what is a sign, what is a graph, and how a Maya text has to be approached. You wonder why this is displayed here. Okay, you can see it not very well. It says here, Maya artifacts in Great Britain. And I listed here 7 museums or centers that possess Maya artifacts with or without writing systems. And the main museums are here in Cambridge, Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, and the British Museum. And we have some other collections that have some minor figurines, shirts, etc., which is not so important for the epigraphic study. But this is just to give you a list of all the museums, if in case you want to proceed with Maya hieroglyphic studies, remain here in Cambridge or go to the British Museum in order to see all the beautiful stela, the monuments, etc. So this is just to give you an overview. Exactly. What do you expect? What do you find in those museums and collections? In the British Museum, you find original pieces, original stela, original lintels here. In Cape, you find also plaster casts. This, for example, is a thing in the Museum of Archaeology here. In the previous exhibition, were all the great monuments of Pirigua plaster casts were erected here. And then you find huge archives with photographs and beautiful drawings by early artists who painted these texts. So you have those collections in London and Cambridge. In Liverpool, you have Edinburgh, Oxford, Norwich, and Exeter. You have artifacts like shirts, like figurines, etc., which is great for archaeological study, but not so much interesting for the epigraphic studies. And Bristol, this is quite nice here, that here they got a collection of several hundred drawings by Adela Breton, an artist who worked in Yucatan and painted all the great stuff from Chichen Itza, from Akanke, where we have been this year. And he also drew a lot of painting. So there's a lot of material here in the UK. So always coming back in the UK and to document them is always our aim, and it's always great to come back here to thank you. This is a small fact sheet about the classic Maya. This is the area where you find the classic Maya. This is the peninsula of Yucatan with some major sites here, but this is only a little small overview. But these are the biggest sites here, and at the same time they also are kingdoms, ancient kingdoms, because a Maya site usually was a god kingdom or a kingdom, but that was headed by a so-called ahau, which is a lord or a king. And usually we just make a distinction between the northern and the southern lowlands, because in that area we find hieroglyphic inscriptions throughout the area, and at the moment we know about 10,000 inscriptions. Our register that we are developing in Bonn has now 6,800 inscriptions registered. So we are working on that, and I will show you this state of these databases next week. And you see here the time period we have. The classic period is from 250 to 900, and the formation of all the writing, the art, and architecture started in the pre-classic era around 500 BC to 100 AD. And geography, you see here the area we have Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, where we find the remains of the classic Maya site. The political structure here, I give you shortly. This was a organized and powerful city-states, kingdoms, and all the kingdoms had lords who were called themselves ahau. And the writing system itself, to be very short here, this will be the topic today, is a so-called logosyllabic writing system, which contains morphographs or logographs, depending on how to define it, and syllables. And we have a combined writing system. But this is the topic of today: how these principles of writing worked. And of course, the calendar system will be the topic of next week. I don't give an introduction to the calendar system today. This will take another 2 hours. So I guess I just give you some information that they have 3 different calendars. One calendar that counted at all the days from a 0 point, then a 260-day calendar that was for ritual use, and a 365 calendar for agrarian and also for ritual use. But before we delve into the topic, we have to talk about phonemes of the Mayan language, because very often you need to learn how you spell these Maya words. And what I often hear, what I very often hear is the misunderstanding how to use Maya and Mayan, because Mayan is only used for the languages. If you talk about classic Mayan, it's the language of the classic Maya. You don't say Mayan hieroglyphics. In our field, we say just Maya hieroglyphs. And Maya refers to the people, culture, and languages. Maya languages. But if you talk about in a linguistic sense, you use Mayan. This is reserved typically for the linguistic. And let's see, here are some of the pronunciations. We have here about 30 vowels and consonants. And here you have, of course, you don't see it here. It starts here with long and short vowels. A, E, I, O, U, with a long U. And here I summarized it as give a short summary about the words. How do you say? This is, for example, phoneme chak for red. And the difference here is it has a glottal in there, it's chak. The difference is chak, and this is chak. And this is a complete different word. And you also say kal, close, and kal for 20. The same is here with Tan and Tan for language. So these are the most important conventions that we need to know. Zul is for dog and Zul is foreigner. And very well, this is the most where I hear most problems when I talk. This is the X is spelled like a sh, and this is short. Oops, short and yash is for the X is sh, and the Y is y. So just remember that when we talk about yash chilan, it's not yax chilan, it's yash chilan. And here are some examples. Here, another example, we have sak for white, poon for the long vowel. But keep in mind, keep those spelling conventions here in mind. Shok, yash, and the rest is just the consonant must explode in your mouth to pronounce this last an. So that's the difference. And Classic Mayan is the language of the hieroglyphs. We have several definitions for that. It's also called epigraphic Mayan. We have the linguists call it classical Cholti. Cholti is a language that does not exist anymore and was spoken in the 17th century and documented by a Spanish friar called Francisco Moran. And previous, what we know so far is that Classic Mayan is the direct descent. This is the direct descendant from Classic Mayan, and we also speak of hieroglyphic Mayan. So these are the four different expressions to talk when we talk about the language of the hieroglyphs. We always need to, of course, we need to know why do we understand so much of the hieroglyphic inscription from the Classic Mayan? Because the language, the Classic Mayan is not spoken anymore. It's aussterben.
Died out.
It died out. It died out in the 9th, 10th century or a bit later. But it survived in a series of languages. And we see here in the 16th century, when Spanish friars visited the peninsula, they encountered here a large area for Yucatec Mayan, with the Lacandon Maya, Itzá Maya, Mopan Maya, and especially in that area, we find Chontal, Chol, also Eastern Chol, Western Chol, and Chorti, and neighboring languages called Tzeltal, Tocholabal, Kekchi, and Chorti again. And these are exactly those languages in which the grammar and the words of the Classic Maya many survived. And this is the reason why when we are working with Maya hieroglyphic inscriptions, we go back to dictionaries that were written up beginning in the 16th century until these days, and go and check if a word did exist in the colonial period or is still spoken in modern languages. So these are all the languages. Of course, you don't see it. These are the about 30 Maya languages that are still spoken with Yucatec, Yacaton, with the most. Is this rejected? No. With most speakers, then we have an era in the Western Mexico, Eastern Mexico, Huastec. Then we have the Chorti, Chontal branch, the Tzotzil, Tzeltal, Tocholabal. Also a very important language for the reconstruction of Classic Mayan. And then start the Highland languages here in that area. They are less important for the study of the hieroglyphs, but they are very important for the reconstruction of Proto-Maya, and because in those languages, the very ancient words from the Proto-Maya survived in most cases. So you have to keep in mind those are the languages of the hieroglyph Yucatec, Chontal, Chol, and Choti. These are the sources we need to refer when we are doing hieroglyphs. And this is the map created by Søren Wichmann in 2003, in which he found, based on the hieroglyphic inscription, that inscriptions that were created in that area contain mainly Yucatec Maya. You see here in the colonial period, the area was much larger. Yes, become much larger. But in the 9th or 8th century, the area was quite small. And we have here Eastern Cholan, Western Cholan, Choti, etc. So this the decipherment of Maya writing has proven those language areas that we find here, and those are the main sources we need. Before we delve more into the field, I just want to give you some emic description of the writing system, which is quite nice because they differentiated between writing that was painted, writing that was carved, or the sign itself. Let's have a shot. Like these are the first glyphs that you learn. It's a hand holding a pencil, which is the word for Tz'iib. And Tz'iib was the very first word that you saw here. This is the language, the word for writing and painting, Tz'iib. So keep in mind, this is the first word that you learn here, saying this is the writing. And let's check the context. So it's the sign with the pen. This one are three phonetic signs, U, Shulu, and Ushul is to carve, and they also called the writing that was carved as the encarving. And the glyph itself, the sign itself, was spelled phonetically Wochol. Let's see it here. This is a depiction from a ceramic vessel with an overlap of the. Can you use that somehow?
I tried. Nobody seems to know.
So it's a black.
Sorry.
No, it's no problem. So this is the so-called logograph or logogram for Tz'iib, to write, and these are these syllables saying Tz'iiba or painting, writing. If you go back to the dictionaries, in most cases it means painting. So all the glyphs painted on the ceramics, in the codices, on objects like murals were called Tz'iib. But all the objects that are carved are called Ushul. Remember, this is Ushul. And this means to engrave, to carve. And this word is attested in several Mayan languages as well. And you see it in the background, you see the depiction of a panel that shows a person sitting here carving a monument using here a tool in which he's carving right now details of what it means.
I think someone still has their microphone switched on Zoom. If you could switch off, please.
So this is a quite rare depiction, because usually we don't have any depictions of painters, writers, of carvers being shown in action. So this panel of unknown provenance, most likely Palenque, it's in Zapata, in Emiliano Zapata, as one of the few depictions of the work, depictions of the writing, the carving process. And you see the glyph here. This one here, it repeats here, I, U, Shu, Lui, and then it was carved. It's the same glyph here. On the yellow stone Kantun, so the panel, this is a small panel that was standing on the wall. It's called Kantun. Kantun means squarish or yellow stone. And this is limestone, a yellowish limestone. So that's quite nice. And the word for glyph itself, this is really a fantastic thing. This survived in northern Yucatan. It's called Wohol. And Wohoi not only means character, sign. This comes from dictionaries from the 16th century, but also in its root means curve. So all they regarded they regarded the sign, the glyph, as something curvy. And the glyph for war, this is the syllable war here, is being shown like a curvy thing. So they regarded the signs as something, yeah, like a curve. And so we have three different designations for carving, writing, and glyph. So this, I thought, is some basic information that might be interesting, especially as you are experts in your own field, coming from the Egypt side, Assyriology and so on. And I think this is always fantastic to see how they designated the object of writing in their own words. So this is something nice to compare. And terminology and basically continues right now. We go where glyphs are found and what they say. And I found very often using this image here. You can see it here. This is, for example, one of the lintels in the British Museum, lintel 16 from Yashchilan, with a king showing with his captive here. This is from the Dresden, from the Dresden Codex in Dresden. It's in the book. That size, beautiful. If you are happy to go to Dresden, go and visit. It's public. It's visible. You can see it. Just ask at downstairs. You can see it. And this one is also. This comes from a Kalabul area. It contains a dynastic list that you see with the calendar date. Okay, we can start a bit here. The red element is the day information, and it contains a numeral like 2 dots are number 2. And the bar is 5. So the first glyph you learn here, 7. It's 7-day sign with, and here you see what? How many bars?
So 3 bars, 15.
19.
Yeah. And 19 day name, month name. This is the month name. It's a combination between the two, and this is the element from the 260-day calendar. And from the 365 calendar, and they combined it. And if you combine both calendars, you have an exact date within 18,952 years. So if you see this can only be placed within 52 years. But we have another calendar system. I'm going to talk about this next week. But this is quite important because now most texts start with this combination of day name and month name. And here it says that a king has received the crown. And also this is quite small ornaments from the body that were found in burials. Well, these things here, that one and that one, comes from burials. And this is an overview, an abstract overview of all the places where hieroglyphic texts were found in a context. Here, a temple pyramid, a stela in front of the pyramid, an altar associated with either with the building or the stela. In the building, you have many opportunities to place inscriptions on the front. In the end, you have murals here. And here, this is by George Stewart, the father of David Stewart, one of the most important Mayanists in these days. He made a distinction between monumental sculpture, building components, ballcourts, and portable objects. And all these portable objects here mainly means that they come from burials or caches. And one of the peculiarities of Maya writing and art is that today about 1/3 of the known hieroglyphic texts come from unknown provenance, which means they were stolen, they were taken out from the burials. And today we have problems of relocating those in the original context. We can describe, we see, translate what's on it, but we can associate the kings that are with the places. So this is an overview about 25, 30, 40 different text types that we handle, that we can handle and we're working on. And yeah, what are the texts saying? This is an overview taken from David Stewart's work on Maya inscriptions from 1995. And if you if you check this, you see its main content is always dynastic history. It's about births, reigns, accessions, and deaths of rulers. This is one of the most important information that we get from the inscription. Then we have rituals and dedicatory acts, bloodletting, temple dedications, and renewal ceremonies in which they are regularly renewing the creation of the world. Mythology and creation, supernatural events, legitimizing royal authority. We have warfare and conquests, also a big topic in the text. As if you go to London, two of the texts are concerning wars. And political alliances, you can reconstruct all the political system based on these inscriptions. We have calendrical and astronomical events, local histories, a few texts on tribute and economy. This is quite rare. We are mainly missing those information. It's difficult to reconstruct classic Maya economy. We know that they paid tribute, that they had to pay tribute, but we don't know how much it is. We only have a few inscriptions naming, for example, 3 or 4 so bags of cacao were given to the king. And so we don't have much information. So you are in a better situation with Egypt and Mesopotamia. And also quite often, a topic very often displayed is artistic and dedicatory inscriptions with the creation of an artifact, because we are lucky that some of the inscriptions and monuments are signed, so we know the name of the kings and artists. And if you go back here, usually this hieroglyph is then followed by the name of the artist. And then we know that the specific monument has been created by that and that person. So this is mainly the topic we have. It's quite reduced. It's very formulaic. So, and this is why we can now read many of the inscriptions, although we don't understand much the 100% of the signs, because it's so formulaic and repetitive. And a typical royal message, before delving into the system of the writings, it goes like this. This is did I write it up? It's little 16 from Yashchilan. And it says it starts here in the black area with the calendar date here that I showed you before, with the verb, with name, and it continues here and it continues here. So it's very it's like a telegram. On the date 6 Kapan 5 Pop, which corresponds to the March 26, 755, Yashcha Tok of Wakab is captured. Is this verb here. He is the Sahal governor, Sahal of Haila Kamchak, the king of Wakab portion. And the text then continues. That one is the war trophy of the 3 cartoon lord. One cartoon is 20 years and means a person who is between 40 and 60 years old when he is called a lord in his 50s or 60s. His name is Bird Jaguar 4, or it's reconstructed because we have to count it somehow, it's not given here. He of 20 captives, it's a title saying that he took 20 captives in warfare, and he is the divine king of Pachan, Yashchilan. Pachan is the old name of Yashchilan. So this is very typical. We have the situation that our understanding of Maya history is mainly based on texts, very short texts, iconography, showing that in this way, this is the bird jaguar in front of his captive, maybe know his name here. And we have hundreds of that type of inscriptions. We also have full inscriptions or a little bit of iconography. So let's let's now go to the text. First approaches. I want to start with a riddle. So, if you find an inscription, for example here, and you have no idea about its content, how do we approach this usually? It's the famous study stone by ChatGPT. And I told ChatGPT create an inscription with a nonsense inscription. But I find it quite nice because if you see this one, you try to see patterns, repetitions, and usually we are looking from left to right and top to bottom. But in other cultures, it's the other way. Or in China, we have it that way. In an Arab area, read it that way. And so this is this opens the eye for unknown inscriptions, unknown texts, and when we have to go back to deep into history when first inscriptions were found 200 years ago, they had the same mess when they didn't understand what's written there. So they had to start. Are there rows? Are there lines? And in a very early decipherment, people thought that my hieroglyphic texts go from left to right, and they also split up from left to right and make the wrong decision. But it was in the early beginning. But we have a very same situation with that stone. It's a real inscription from Cascajal. It's written in 900 BCE, and it belongs to the Olmec area. And it's regarded now as the most ancient inscription found in that area. It contains about 40 elements. They repeat, but we still don't know how to read it, how to read it phonetically or linguistically. But we even have problems to see structures here. And I compared here different approaches here. And David Mora-Morin in 2020 collected some previous approaches for the writing system, and there was either the problem, how do we see the text? And that way or that way? You can turn it that way. So we have a comparison. And then some authors thought that they are written in columns, like the Maya inscription, later Maya inscriptions are given in columns. But others see columns with some separations here. And it continues. We still don't know how to read it today, but the list of different approaches how to read it, and especially such long phrases will be. We don't know if is it locosyllabic, is it a syllabic, is it something else semasiographic, but most likely it's a predecessor of the logographic writing system. So we don't know. We still don't know much about this hieroglyphic inscription. So now let's go to the hieroglyphic inscriptions here from Lincoln 10 from Yaxchilan and Lincoln 15 from also from Yaxchilan. It's in the British Museum. This is still in C2, or I'm not sure. This is an old photograph by Theobald Mahler. I think it's partly destroyed today. It's a bit different. This is a pure Maya inscription with no imagery information, but it's a bit more structured than the element before. So if for those who have no idea, how would you start with the inscription?
It seems to have a grid. There's horizontal and vertical.
Yeah. Yeah, and now that this was the big question. Did it go that way, that way, that way, or column-wise? This was one of the problems at the beginning, and this was solved quite early because in the 1890s the calendar system was understood, and then it was clear that the calendars had always have the information about the 260-day calendar and the 365 calendar. They are in a double column, and then they would read like this. But this has to be this was only possible by the decipherment of the calendar system. So, and the same is here. How do you start to work on that inscription? What do you think if you see this one here? Do you see any clues that hint to it, or?
Start with calendar.
It's calendars, yeah.
On the left.
Right. This is a basic clue here. So let's say 95% of all the texts have that directionality. It starts at the top under here and here, and it goes from top to bottom and from left to right. And this is the same with some secondary texts that are a bit smaller here. You see here, and when I was here, I presented the ideas on the different size of hieroglyphic inscriptions and signs. The main inscription here is related to the main character here, and this is a so-called vision centipede. It's the idea that when they burn stripes with blood here, that in the smoke, the ancestor is appearing out from the smoke, and this smoke has been regarded as some kind of centipede. And the centipede is the animal. If you open a burial, a quite fresh burial, it's full of centipedes that is eating the body. So that's the reason why the centipede was so important for the underworld, for the belief, underworld belief. So this is mainly if you approach an inscription. Now we go to the British Museum and you start directly on the left side. That is solved now for you. And mainly we are going from left to right, from top to bottom. But there are a few cases in which this directionality is not correct. This is also from the British Museum, link to 24. And if you have a look at the original here or the drawing, what do you recognize here?
Mirror.
It's mirrored. Why do you know that it's mirrored?
It's calendar style.
Right. And usually, if you are an Egyptologist, you immediately know it, that the glyphs are watching to the beginning or to the border. And in this case, the glyphs are staring to the right border. Yeah. And of course, you are absolutely right. It's again the inscription here with the calendar date. This is another hint. So I would say 99% of all the inscriptions go that way. 1% like this one, right? Not all less is less, but 10, 20 inscriptions. But we still don't know why, specifically this inscription has been written from right to left. It's pure speculation. So, and now terminology goes on with the hieroglyphic block. Now we're talking about the element within the inscription. It's the so-called hieroglyphic block that we can describe as a compact squarish unit bordered by empty space in which we find 1 to 4 signs that combine, that usually forming a word or a semantic unit. And here this is a painted text in which I was looking for the glyph for to write. Here you see this hieroglyph here is the same like here. it's also a hand holding a pencil, it's another form. And this form here is the arm, this part of the arm, also writing here. But it's the very same glyph in a different style or different position of the hand. And you see here what I mean. A hieroglyphic block is always composed of 3-4 signs, and here 3 signs, and there's always a space in between. It's like a grid. And I try to give you the details here. Within the hieroglyphic block, you have a sign on that side. You have the sign for the hand. You have this main element here. That one here, and this one is the female head. And we now immediately know if you happen to find an inscription in which a female head is spelled, what could this mean if you find this?
The word is feminine? Might the word be feminine?
Yeah, it's feminine related. In this case, it's giving the name of a queen. And if you happen to find any inscription, if you cannot read the text, and you see this hieroglyph here, especially it's a female head with a so-called il element. We call it il. It's just because this is painted. This has to do with the moon goddess. It's an ornament from the moon goddess. You see, it's quite repetitive here, and it automatically says this now comes a name of a woman. And you see the composition is like this. You have a main element here in front of it. So the reading order then is always from left to right, top to bottom, left, top to bottom, left, top to bottom, left, top to bottom, and so on. And in many cases, the glyph block only contains one glyph. So this is a glyph block. And when we're talking about a glyph block, we in most cases it's a meaningful unit, either a lexical unit or a semantic unit. So, and now, in order to find an inscription, in order to speak about a specific glyph block in the inscription, we research invented this system, giving a column a letter, and each row is given with a numeral. So the block A1 contains 5 hip. This is, you see here, and this is also quite good to see how is the reading order, because in this case, first this is a day name, then comes the month's name, the text continues here, and then we have this reading order. So it starts with a single column and then with a double column again. And when we're talking about hieroglyphs in the text, I say to my colleague, oh, the glyph in C1 or C2 reads that and that. So that's the coordinate system we are using in order to reference specific glyph block. So, and now the reading and writing order. You see, it's very basic here. This is an inscription, a quite late inscription that is found in a private collection. And it was only recently found by archaeological evidence that this piece comes from a site called Lakanhatzel Tal. It's a famous site in which that was plundered. No, was plundered in the 1990s and 1980s. And many of the pieces came into the art market and were sold to private people. And some of them appeared in museums. And now let's have a look at the reading order here. It starts here with a long calendar date. We have to go here with a double column. It starts with a huge glyph here. And this is another indicator where is the beginning of an inscription. It starts also with that huge glyph that we call the introductory glyph, which is the introduction for a longer calendar information, which follows here. And this information goes from left to right, then you go back here, and if you come here, you go up and start here again in a double column. And you see here, for example, again here the Tzolkin and Harp, the 260-day Harp. It goes like this, and it stops here, and then you have a single column, and then it goes down here. And the secondary text here, this is, maybe you recognize this. oops. You recognize this, it's a bat head. It's a bat head that looks like no, that bat head. It's another spelling for that bat head. And see, you soon recognize difficulties of the Maya writing. It's very it's a calligraphic play when they render glyphs. So you have to recognize this is the bat head. Back. And the bat head is the syllable shu. And it says you, shu lu, it is his writing, and then is followed the name of the artist here. It's called Uchante. This we cannot read. Org. Org means young prince. So this is information that this text has been created by this person here. And you see, he's holding a book. This is a hieroglyphic book here. So this is a quite nice inscription. It's quite late about 900 BC, AD. Contains a lot of logographs and syllabic spellings. And on ceramic vessels, you also find this thing, but you very often find a linear reading here from left to right. And we see that glyphs are also staring at the beginning of the inscription. Here, especially, we don't know where the text started. Because usually we have the information that this is the drinking vessel belongs to that person. This is missing here. We have sequences of dynastic sequences, which is difficult to see where's the beginning. So, but anyway, this is just an example that some texts are really read from left to right. And this, of course, is a cylindrical. This is the rollout. This is not the text. It's the rollout of a vessel. So a little exercise. Just to do. How would you read this text, not the iconoclasts? How would you structure this inscription? Now we know we have single columns. We have mainly cases double columns, and we have again single columns. And have a close look at this here. See here. This is a bit. This is a bit higher here, so this is the introductory glyph gives you the hint that it starts on the left side. It's the so-called long count, yeah. The long count, the number of days that have passed since a specific 0 point, which means that in this case it's about 1,400,000 days after the 0 point an event occurred. So they counted not in years but in days. So any solution take some of the calendar dates in the text.
Going 9 and then. How is that?
There's a little, it's like a step here. So it means that here, you see, this hieroglyphic inscription here is set a little bit as it's not another level of the text. Usually it's very linear. It's a grid here, and the grid is interrupted here. It means it only works here with first column, and then we have a double. We come here at the end. You see, this is again the Tzolkin, the Dane, and the star, but then continues like this. But usually, always think about the main reading order is always a double column. But then you have to look at some of the details, fine details. So this is about the reading order that we are expecting, and by content it also works out. This is from Piedras Negras, this leader from Piedras Negras. And the reading order within the hieroglyphic block is that one again, from left to right and top to bottom. This works out. In most cases, this works out. And this says that Ish Tz'iib Chan, lady who rides in the sky. Who's maybe saying that I think it's like writing figures in the sky, painting the sky. And now we come to the text and subdivisions. We see that some texts have some divisions are on different levels. Again here, this is again two examples from the British Museum. We see that we have three different text styles. This is a text field, that is a written text field. Here's a text field, and this one is carved here. We finally carved. It's only visible here in the drawing. So again, do you recognize this one here? Bad glyph, which means it's a carving. Again, we have here the signature of the king, or the signature of the artist who created that piece here. But he signed his artwork, but only on the lower level. It's in that level here. It's only carved. But the most important text is in a written field, in a raised field here, in which the main text that goes with the king has a large size, and the text that goes with the lady here is a bit smaller, but it's also on a raised field. But again here, since the center of that piece is the king, his name glyphs and his text is larger than in comparison the field that's related to his wife, who's doing a blood offering here. And so we have different. We have different text fields here with different information. The first text is starting here with the calendar date. It stops here, and then we have the second text that is related to her. Why do we know? Because she's staring at the text field. This is not a convention in Maya art that text or name glyphs that are related to the figures. They are very close related at the height of the head. It is another convention here, and engraved in the surface is the name of the artist. So, and also the size of the glyph is larger. This one, and this one are different sizes. But we have three different texts within an artwork. And also here, if you have a close look at this dynastic race, this is also a dynastic list from the Calakmul area. It's a rollout again. And you may recognize the red glyphs here, which are not only a focus marker where a new phrase or sentence is starting, it's always here the calendar date, saying that the king has received the statue of a god and the name of the king, and this goes through and through and through. And this calendrical structure, like this one, this is the day and month information, is giving structure to the text itself. And we know that as a subphrase, it's always starting here in a new calendar date. So if we count it through, we see that the first phrase starts here with that date and stops here with the very last date with the dedicatory inscription when the text was created, because this glyph here says it's the drinking vessel of that person, UKRI. So that's quite nice. So we now know by calendrical structures we can subdivide a text into different phrases. And that is very helpful, especially with longer text. But usually the texts are quite short. And when we are dealing with hieroglyphic inscriptions, now we come to a field that is so different from other epigraphies, because in our field we say we're using, for example, as a basic information, numeric encoding, saying that this sign has the catalog entry 5051, 501. This is important because not all glyphs are deciphered. And if you want to refer to a hieroglyph that has no linguistic reading, you must name it somehow. And that's the reason why we are using a numeric encoding for each glyph that is based on the Eric Thompson catalog by 1962. We enlarged it a bit, we completely revised it, and still are using, it's like the Gardener for Egyptology. We don't stop using the Gardener because it's not complete. It's one of the most important catalog and epigraphic sources. So we decided in the project we will continue with the Thompson catalog and do that. And the next level is the graphemic transliteration, means Tz'iib, and Tz'iib. This is all the word for Tz'iib. We use the word for transcription when we do a linguistic interpretation of the transliteration. Sometimes in our field, colleagues are using transcription for that section, and I think in other epigraphies this specifically has not been conventionalized in epigraphic research generally. So this is our way we're designating this one, and we are using morphoglossing in order to determine the grammatical and lexical meanings. Very often I see in your categories, in your work, that you don't do it. You just translate it and do it. But especially in undeciphered or less deciphered hieroglyphic systems, it's important that you say, this is a verb, this is a noun, and so on, and has this meaning. And we do a translation, literal translation. So this is mainly the naming conventions we use for when we are analyzing an inscription. Sign forms. Now we go to the sign forms. You have seen that, especially with that small element with the bat head that is designating is part of the carving off in expression that can be very different. In the hieroglyphic writing system, you can differentiate between narrow signs that are always narrow and broad signs that are also always broad, that like a quadratic view. But some of the elements are segmentable. It means that you can use this glyph either or divide it, use the left part or use the right part, or on the vertical level, the upper part or the lower part. So these are these basic conventions that you have that you can. This sign you will always find in this form. It's a word for pakal, the shield. It's a flexible shield. And it's also part of the name of the big king from Palenque, Pakal the Great. And this one here is the most common hieroglyphic inscription. It's a pronoun, the U ergative pronoun. It means he, she, it, and that's the reason why it's very often attached at the beginning of hieroglyphic blocks. So these are the basic principles. And then we can, of course, it's a hieroglyphic system, meaning that the single hieroglyphs and form are representing elements of the natural environment, of the cultural and natural environment. In this case, we can differentiate between person concept, animal concepts, plants, natural object, artifacts, and many of them still undetermined. For example, this one here are all glyphs that are somehow related, representing persons. And we include here gods, because in the iconography we see that gods are being perceived as a combination between animal and persons, but mainly they remain persons, having here these elements here. Animal, here have a shark. What do you see? What do you see here, for example? What could you recognize here then now you know it's a natural object. What could you recognize from here?
Well,
It's go with the plant.
oh, well.
Corn, yeah, corn. This is a folder for Maisplant, for elote, for the corn. And this one is a flower. Of course, animals, you can, I know it is difficult to see that, but now after so many years work, we know we can identify most of them. And here, where, for example, this is nice here, it's the word for road, which is represented by a footprint. And this is also it's also a seated body here, without head, without arms. It says just chum to sit. This is the rain god shark. That's here some water elements. It's the glyph for Ishik, woman. And this is the word for Ahau, Lord. And this is a shark, Balaam. This is a snake. This is used for the syllable li. It's a bird eating a worm. And in epigraphy, we say worm bird. It's essentially li. And this is a deer, a captured deer. And here we have flower, this corn, as you recognize. This is the word for root, the root from a tree. It's an aquatic plant, etc. And here we have the hill, sun, the cloud, the sky. This is the word for stone, etc. So, and many signs in my hieroglyphic writing are depicting artifacts, and they are quite difficult to recognize. Some of them must be artifacts, but we don't really know. For example, the very common word for the color black represents like this, and we don't know what is the origin of that sign. And is it the word to build? We don't know. So we can distinguish. We can use these categories to categorize the signs in Maya writing, and this is the complete inventory of Maya glyphs that we created in our project. The online database will be open very soon. So this is has all been redrawn and standardized. And now at the moment we have 1,040 different graphemes represented in almost 1,500 graph variants. So this is the overview of all the words that we and the logographs and symbols we have in Maya writing. And it's quite impressive, but there are the writing systems that all have more elements. And now let's go to sign classifications. As I told you, we are using Thomson catalog as a basis for discussion. All the texts are encoded in using the Thomson catalog numbers and then being transferred into linguistic form. And for example, the sign number 1 here, it is the combination here, it is the variation type. This is all the syllable for u, for ergative pronoun. And here, this is the one we use, and we still are relying on the Thomson catalog that was published 60 years ago. And it's part of our database that we're going to publish. And the problem always is when Thomson conceived this catalog, or even predecessors like Günther Zimmermann, they always tried to combine the catalogization of a glyph according to the iconographic origin. What's happening when he compiled his catalog? Here we have different forms, plant forms here. Then he introduced the hands between the numbers 217 and 222. And then comes some the footprints and an arm, and then something different, body elements. When he was compiling his catalog, he soon noticed there are always forms that should go in between. And he already created this numbering system. So then he added the new element at the end. And so it was impossible to sort his catalog according to the iconographic origins. it would be helpful to work on. So what we decided to do it other way. By the help of digital humanities, we now make a differentiation between a graph and sign. Sign is all the linguistic information, and the graph is the visual representation of the sign. And then we say we describe the iconic origins with a controlled vocabulary. So we separate graph and icon, and say that this graph has still a number 1, number 2, number 3, but we don't care about the order of appearance. So, but the iconographic description is on another level. So this is the best way to handle the problem of paleographic styles, and especially for Maya writing, where you where you cannot identify every single glyph accordingly. So this is an excerpt of that. We have now a new feature in which where you can search for some specific elements here. I was telling the system, give me all the signs that contains hands. And it contains here the Tz'iib hieroglyph that I'm going to discuss later. These are hands here, figures with hands. So we have created some kind of dynamic catalog that is useful when you are working with hieroglyphic inscriptions. You see, there's this element. I want to see all the glyphs that have this element. I can choose it. I can choose it from the database and create a dynamic catalog. So this is the new approach we are using, and it's quite good. And then you can give me all the hand glyphs that are combined with the bird head, and so on. So you can distinguish it that way. Now come to the sign function. What's the sign function? We're using here the glotographic expression by Geoffrey Sampson. I know there are many other typologies trying to describe logographic writing systems. I have chosen this one here, and we now know it's rather a morphographic instead of a logographic principle, because some of the morphographs can also be used as grammatical elements. So there's it has an interplay with overlap. An overlap between these concepts. So we rather can speak of morphographs, meaning words and grammatical elements. Phonographic signs representing syllables, CV syllables. At the moment, we know 357 graphs, not signs, that represent syllables, and 687 graphs representing logographs. And we have hidden away, for example, the word for Balaam can be written simply with one morphograph. It can be rendered with 3 syllables. And here Balaam with a combination of a logograph with the Ma element, here indicating the final consonant of the word Balaam. And this is a nice feature I'm going to explain in the next thing. It's a doubler. It's number 2 here. And this is a so-called diacritic sign, which we have only a few diacritic signs. In Maya writing, we don't have determinatives. We don't have semantic indicators. It's just diacritics. And this one is simply saying, if this sign is attached to a specific syllable, it says double the syllable. So just instead of ka, spell it kaka. And we will see here the next. As an example, I've used this one. It's quite a common hieroglyph in inscriptions. It's a hand holding a sealing stick, a digging stick. This is a typical way to work in the field, in the milpa, in which they are clearing the milpas and drilling holes in the ground. And this hieroglyph has been in the 1915 first identified, saying it was terminated the 15th cartoon. Cartoon is a specific time period. So it means, it's like saying it was terminated the 19th century in our way. And the actual reading of this hieroglyph was quite unknown. It could only be identified. Now in in the 1990s, it came the breakthrough in the Maya decipherment, in which all the different spellings and variations of the sign were found. In this way, this is the one we have seen. It's composed of the sign 218 with the syllable ha. And then David Stewart found examples having this glyph with the syllable tza attached. He found that this very same expression, that one here, can be spelled with full syllables. Tzaha. This two is very same like this one. This is the head variant. And now we have here this two syllable with the doubler here. And it says double the glyph and read it tutu. Tutu ha. So this is another example in which you can see the play or the game, the calligraphic game that the Maya scribe used to differentiate, to spell a hieroglyphic inscription in a very different way. And it also says Tuchzach, it was terminated. And now I'll give you some information how we work now with that one. You have the expression Tzutz. And now we go to the dictionaries. And here we have the next help from David Stewart's article on that glyph, where he found Tzutz in Tz'iib language, in Chontal, these are the different dictionaries that he used for the Chontal, Chol language. I give you again here. All these languages are relevant for the study. And in summary, the semantic domains for Tzutz are to close, to finish, to complete, and most intriguingly, to replant, to reseed something. And that's the background of the glyph here for Tzutz. Not only means to finish, but also to replant. They regarded the new time period to be planted into the ground, because the complete Maya culture was a very agrarian society, and their texts were very relying on those metaphors for agrarian things. And now I told you that. You tell me when I'm over.
So we've got 15 minutes.
Okay, I think I see. Yeah.
Questions.
Yeah. So these are the glyphs are not yet fully deciphered. We know that most glyphs, some glyphs are verified, and you see a dish of the sheep bar. These are the color terms. This is the vowel E. This is Balaam for jaguar. This is the head for turtle. These are the glyphs that we can read. We know it from. Next week I'm going to present you how we could decipher those glyphs by some actually the work by David Alanda. And then we have some operational readings that we know that a specific glyph is ending in a t for phonetic complementation. That this glyph is very often ending in n, or now is in context of a cave. And this is the word for iknal. This is a spondylus shell, very famous, and so on. So we see we have quite a lot of operational readings that we have to handle in our project. And then we have only partial readings. We know that this sign is representing a ball court. The ball game was very important, and it's ending in N. And this is the pyramid, or the structure hieroglyph. It's ending in N. Until these days, we don't know the word for that. It has not survived the cultural vocabulary of that area has not survived. And we have some unknown stuff we cannot read. At least we know that this means ball court, but many glyphs, about 300, we cannot identify neither, nor the semantic context. So at the moment, state of decipherment. We are very often asked how much of the hieroglyphic writing can be read. Here's the answer. We differentiate between the highest confidence level 1, in which all the contexts are included in the decision whether the reading is correct or not. So it's a confidence level 1 is the first best one, and we have other confidence level with a less confidence. And For example, here the word Balam, these are all the glyphs are readable, Balam here, and the word for hunchback is saw, no, but the syllable saw is not well attested for the decipherment. And we know this is representing a building with a skull inside. It must mean burial, but we don't know if this is the correct reading. So if we just if we don't care about the confidence levels, we can say it's 60% of the signs are deciphered and 40% are not deciphered. But if we only consider the glyphs with the highest confidence, it's only that we can read less than half of the hieroglyphic inscription. But why do we say that hieroglyphic text, my hieroglyphic writing is deciphered? We understand most of the inscriptions because that bunch, these hieroglyphs here are the most common hieroglyphic inscriptions, and that's the reason we can read most of it. So if you are being asked, it's 60 to 40 with uncritical comment, or 40 to 60 with a critical eye in it. So terminating now with some slides about our repetitiones, or how the Maya scribe created variation. This is quite nice. In this hieroglyphic inscription, which is one of the most beautiful inscriptions in the Maya area from Palenque, tablet of the 96 glyphs, Maya scribe introduced a lot of variation in order to prevent monotony. For example, here are 5 different spelling for the word Iut, here with the head of a monkey, a fish, a person, of another fish, and this one is so it's quite different. And this is also another, so it's always the same word. And they were introducing here a calligraphic play between to prevent monotony. And okay, I forgot to translate this one here. We have in the Maya writing a so-called standard form of the hieroglyph. We have the portrait variant. So this glyph can become spelled in a form of a shape of a human head, or full figure hieroglyph. You compare it here. The B in a human head, the B spelled with human bodies. So from our field here. And then we have this, the creation of portrait variants. On the left side, they are the standard versions, but they created full portrait hieroglyphs. And this is nose, hair, and this is the hieroglyph for knee. Knee means hair. So it's quite nice. And they played with that variation here. Also here with full figure hieroglyphs, this is the syllable li, the warm word, is here in this full figure version. And this is just the head here and the bird, the worm here, or the syllable u, it's a shark. And this is the full body with the body. And you see it here this is the very same hieroglyph. This is bird jaguar from Yashchilan. And on the right side, it's spelled with the full figure hieroglyphs. So blue is the jaguar, here's the bird, and this hieroglyph Ya here is spelled here as a mosquito. Mm-hmm. And this one is the syllable Ni. So it took quite a long time to understand that this is the very same hieroglyph, and that's one of the reasons why the decipherment took so long. So another example, these are the different variation. They introduced variation by graphotactic play. So you see what's happening here. The Ya is here, then the bird can be shifted to that position. The Ya can be on the top. But the reading order is quite nice, always the same from left to right, or top to bottom. So if you consider this, you can easily understand it, and especially these all come from the Yashchilan, and if you work with Yashchilan inscription, you soon recognize that's the very same And so we have a different set of graphotactic patterns. We have infixation, conflation, overlapping, transposition. Here this should be read UKRI, but the key sign here is transposed. We have elision with diacritic, ethnographic, telegraphic. For example, I'm only saying kawa is this is also cacao. This is the diacritic sign kaka, wa. This is simply saying ka. It's an abbreviation for cacao. And here's kawa. So sometimes they also change the reading order from here UTR standard, and it says UYAT, UYAT or UYAT. So they change the reading order, but by context, the reader knew this is always UTR, the same thing. And they introduced it within the same expression. So they were keen on creating calligraphic gains. So homonymy, these are all different signs for U, because U is the most important pronoun in the inscriptions, because all the texts are written in the perspective of the third person. And that's the reason why they introduced so many U variants. And even within the U variant here, they created such a length of variation. This is all the same very U variant. This is the shark. So you need a little time of experience to consider this, that this is always the shark, and this you always have to look at the context of that. And this human head here for U. This is all U.